now bring you up to speed on what President Biden's activities would look like in the next few hours after he was sworn in a moment ago by the Chief Justice and Kamala Harris by an Associate Justice. Well, President Biden is expected to hit the ground running, and these are the first set of executive orders. Well, joining me live via Skype from Washington, District of Columbia. For more on this is Calvin Dark. Thank you for joining us on TVC News at 7. It's been a historic day, 20th of January 2021, with all of the issues we've seen between November and now when the election held. Now, finally, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have actually taken the oath of office. And Biden is promising to be a president for all Americans. How do you see this play out?
Well, I can just say sigh of relief, because the last 4 years have been chaotic and just a lot. And it was really refreshing to turn the page, and especially after what's happened since the November elections, and then after the last 2 weeks after what happened in the Capitol, it was really good to get to normalcy, to get to strategic thinking, to get to promises but reality. And so for that, I am very happy. And as an American, regardless of political positions, I'm very, very proud to be in a country where we have now transitioned to a new leader, peaceful transition of power. So that is a sign of the strength of our democracy. So I am all around happy today.
All right. And this indeed is a critical moment in the American history. Well, we're battling the coronavirus pandemic on one hand. The U.S. has recorded over 400,000 deaths related to this. And it just appeared, twice before now, that the nation is divided more than at any other time. How difficult a task do you see it for Biden and Harris uniting the American people?
Oh, it's more than difficult. I don't even know the word. And I don't think that they'll be able to, solve our problems, not because they're not up to it, but because we have problems that existed for a couple of centuries, even before Donald Trump. But I will say that what is very positive on this day is that now President Biden, he was optimistic but realistic. He said, what he wanted to do, but he acknowledged not only what has happened, but what will continue to happen in this challenge we're facing, be it with the pandemic, be it with our economic situation and other challenges. And I think Americans are going to appreciate that honesty, that it doesn't mean that someone's pessimistic. My favorite line of the whole speech was, "My whole soul is in this." And I think that that is something we've been lacking, and that will give encouragement. But when it comes to solving the divisions and solving these problems, it's a daunting challenge. And I think that President Biden and Vice President Harris are starting well, but it'll be a challenge of enormous proportions.
All right. Well, Kamala Harris is making history on different fronts. First female, first Black American, and first American Asian woman to be vice president of America. Could that just bring some level of hope to those who seem despaired in and about America?
Of course. And one of the things that, one of the many things that I think was unfortunate about the last 2 weeks after the events in the Capitol is that we haven't really had a chance as a country to really try to wrap our heads around this development. It's encouraging. It's encouraging for everyone, particularly when I think about young African-American women and seeing this, and it's inspiring because if you can see it, you can be it. And that is a very inspiring part of today. And I think that will inspire. This is former President Barack Obama inspired people like me. I think this will continue to inspire Americans. And so it's a great day, and I hope that we can focus on that just a bit as we tackle these great challenges.
Well, Donald Trump snapped the inauguration, but his deputy, Vice President Mike Pence, was in attendance. And we actually saw Vice President Kamala Harris and her husband escort both persons to their motorcade. What legacies do you see that Trump has left and that Americans would actually remember him for after now?
So I don't agree with a lot or most of what President Trump tried to do and did. However, there is a significant portion of this country that agrees, even if they didn't agree with his style and his way of doing it, agreed with his policies, agreed with a conservative way forward. And I do think that before the last 2 weeks, there were things that former President Trump could have really, cemented his legacy of what he was able to accomplish. One of those things was the vaccine, for example, and the effort to get that ready at warp speed. But I will tell you this, after the events of the 6th of January in the Capitol and his incitement to riot, it's all trash. And I don't say that lightly. I say that whatever good he had for his legacy was tarnished by what happened in his last 2 weeks. And I think when you were bringing up, the example of Vice President Pence being there, which, I wish Vice President Pence would have spoken out against Donald Trump before, but we can definitely see that when his life was threatened and the president didn't bother to check on him, that obviously opened his eyes. I do think that it was the lowest bar of grace to go to the inauguration for Vice President Pence, but for President Trump to leave this morning and then to have a red carpet and to give a speech about all the things he had done and to not even participate in something that represents our democracy and a transition of power, it was sad and childish and just small. And I think that's very unfortunate for us as Americans, no matter who they supported or not in the last administration.
All right. In the course of the Trump administration, there was a whole lot of goings back and forth between the U.S. and China. Talk about the trade war between two of the biggest economies in the world. With the emergence of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, what changes, what differences do you see?
Well, first, and I think this can apply to every situation, be it domestic or international, is that we will get back to a sense of normalcy in that there will be a strategy behind what President Biden does. It may be on Twitter. It won't be announced by Twitter because I think that he will take a more traditional approach. And I think that that will give a lot more confidence and trust to Americans, but also to our allies and adversaries abroad. And when it comes to China, I think that's a challenge. I think that some of the things that former President Trump did with our relationships with China need to be corrected, but I think some of it may need to be continued with more strategy behind it, and I think it's going to be a challenge for the Biden administration. So I don't think it'll be easy, but I do believe that we at least won't have this chaotic nature of approaching every one of our international challenges with our allies and adversaries.
Calvin, I'd like you to just hold on. Let's get in some more reports and we'll be back to you for more analysis. Well, Kamala Harris has created history by becoming the first woman, first Black, and first Indian American Vice President of the United States. Vice President Harris, who is 56 years old, has been a county district attorney for San Francisco, the first woman, first African-American, and first Indian origin to be elected to the position of vice president. We have more in this report.
We did it. We did it, Joe. You're going to be the next president of the United States.
A record that has lasted for over 300 years is broken. And for the first time, a woman is the vice president of the United States of America. And not just any woman, but a woman of color. This is perhaps the biggest in the series of first already achieved by the 56-year-old lawyer. Kamala Harris was the first black attorney general in the state of California and the first woman of South Asian heritage to be elected into the Senate. In the office of Vice President, Ms. Harris will have the huge responsibility of leading the Senate. After the last-minute victories in Georgia, the Democratic Party canceled the lead held by the Republican. Now, the Senate is evenly split between the two parties, with 50 members each. The Vice President stands out as leader. One scenario which may be interesting to many is that, as vice to a 78-year-old president, Kamala Harris may be one step away from becoming president, and then first female president of the United States. She began her career in 1990 as deputy attorney in Alameda County of California. She remained in public office and grew to become the Attorney General of the state before contesting to represent her people in the Senate in 2016, an election she won. Ms. Harris' experience as a prosecutor and legal officer was a preparation for the big task of being the leader of the Senate of the biggest democracy in the world. Through her public service and campaign, the Vice President has shown herself as one driven by conviction.
Our nation continues to face challenges from the coronavirus pandemic to this economic recession, from our climate crisis to a long overdue reckoning with racial injustice, to healing and strengthening the democracy that we all cherish. But we are ready to get to work, and we are filled with a sense of purpose and hope.
Her views on death penalty, integrity of the political process, gun-related crimes, consumer protection, and LGBT rights stand as testament of the commitment of a rare breed public servant. Coming months and years will provide an assessment of a woman who towers higher than her peers and perhaps has history on her side as a woman of many firsts.
Well, let's bring in our foreign affairs correspondent, Thomas, who joins us from Abuja for more on this. Moya, this is history being made in the U.S. We have a female vice president, and not just the first female, she's also a woman of color, Black American, of South Asian heritage as well. Just how people you've interacted with reacting to this development?
This is history in the making, and as a female, I feel so happy seeing this happen in the United States of America. This is a dream of black martyrs like Martin Luther King coming to reality once again. It happened during the time of Obama. We were very happy an African, a man of African descent was president, and now we have the first female black woman and black Asian becoming vice president, and probably would also become president. And I think it's been an emotional period for a lot of Americans, especially those that support the Biden-Harris ticket. And her personality is also one of the reasons a lot of Americans actually felt, yes, this is a new dawn. We're coming from a broken record. It's time to heal, and we're seeing a draw that can actually take us to that promised land. And a lot of people are very happy. They're very optimistic that new things will start to happen in the United States of America that would erase the memories of the last 4 years.
Well, Moya, on a lighter note, on social media, we saw different footages of people advertising what, in the local parlance is called Ashwabi, with the Biden-Harris image, and people just celebrating. It's as though Nigerians are really excited about developments in the United States of America.
Nigerians are particularly very excited. The outgone president banned counted Nigeria among some of the countries he banned for religious insecurities. And this has not gone down well with a lot of Nigerians, because we shouldn't be counted with countries like Syria. The situation in Nigeria is not as bad as that. But in his own wisdom, he felt Nigeria should be counted among such. So Nigerians are happy. And then with the fact that Biden announced that he's going to reverse some of these policies that has caused the foreign policy gap between United States and some countries, including Nigeria. So you can imagine the joy in the hearts of Nigerians and the Owambears that are ready to party. And from some of my friends I spoke with, that we interacted, they said they are also traveling to DC, and though they were not able to get to the ground, but they are sure going to throw a party somewhere around DC and enjoy this day. This is history starting today.
Well, trust Nigerians to enjoy every moment, even in the midst of a global pandemic. But Moyo, let's talk about Kamala Harris's emergence and the history she's making. How soon do we see something of this nature play out in Nigeria, where we'll have a female either as a vice president or as president?
That is a tough call at the moment. In the dispensation before this, the administration before this current administration, we saw more women participate in politics more actively than we are seeing this time around. And it's been a bother, a worry to a lot of advocates and people that feel, no, Nigeria should not be at this stage. We're a giant in Africa. And one of the ways we can actually portray this is having women but actively in politics. So this is actually a cue for Nigerian women and even Nigerian men to encourage more women, and let us have history being made in Nigeria. We've had only women being deputy governors. We can go further than that. We can have female governors and even female president, not just vice president.
Indeed, history can be made, and it takes for everyone to be involved and to gear up for the task that is ahead. But as it just appears there is a system in place that doesn't exactly, is it encourage now the women folk to actually be there? Because every now and again, we hear people talk about allow the women get there, give them the opportunity, but then in the long run, you just find out that it really isn't what people expect.
Yeah, exactly. It's but then there's a reason why we need to canvass for women to be allowed to play into politics. We still have God for that reason play out in Nigeria, and then people would want to sponsor candidates, and it is a lot of money. How many people would drop their money for women, or would actually put everything out for a woman to vie for a public office? So these reasons are one of the part of why we have to keep advocating, keep canvassing, as much as it's a dangerous terrain in Nigeria at the moment, not only Nigeria, in Africa at the moment. It is still time for women to actually come out and vie for positions.
All right, well, let's bring back Calvin Dark, who is in Washington, D.C. for developments there. Well, President Biden has now become president after 2 failed attempts, and it's amid threats of fear of a protest break out. The next 4 years, a whole lot of people are looking forward to what would happen. Would it look like what transpired under the Trump administration, or would it be something entirely different, something that would bring hope to the majority of the American people? What do you see in the days ahead?
Well, as happy as many Americans are over the new president and the transition of power in our country that is a sign of our democracy, there are real fears. I'm here in Washington, D.C., where we are on a severe lockdown, and the lockdown didn't stop when Joe Biden took the oath of office. In fact, I don't think it will officially begin to lessen for another couple of days. And that's because there are still threats violence, of American homegrown terrorists of the same ilk that attacked the Capitol 2 weeks ago. And we know that even beyond the next week or two, those same feelings that inspired that reaction on the behalf of the folks who supported Trump and some of his policy goals, that's going to continue. And so that's something that we as Americans are going to have to really grapple with. And that threat of violence and that kind of fear that we all have, while I'm so incredibly thankful that nothing happened to disrupt at all the inauguration of our new president and vice president, I'm also very aware that we have to be vigilant and that these threats and dangers are not even close to being over.
Well, and President Biden's speech mentioned that disagreement must not lead to disunion. Let's see how he and Harris go ahead to unite the American people this season. International Affairs Analyst Calvin Dock, thank you for joining us at this time.
Thank you.
And Moyo Thomas, our correspondent in Abuja, thank you for joining us as well.